The Duke fell in love with a woman. Her brother told him, "You two will definitely be happy together." The love-struck Duke believed him. But after the marriage, he learned the truth. The woman's heart already belonged to another man. "Tyran, I will never love you." She became a tool for her family to consolidate their power through marriage. But she still bore the Duke a son. However, she never expected that he would be a monster. The Heisen family bloodline is special, imbued with powerful mysteries. When she accidentally witnessed her son's power awakening and nearly going berserk, unable to bear it, the woman died of depression. With Aichi gone, the Duke blamed his son for everything. He disgustedly called him a freak and frequently abused him. His father's hatred plunged Zachary's world into darkness. Even his mother, who often appeared in his dreams, was full of resentment. It seemed no matter what he did, how he acted, he wouldn't receive a shred of warmth. Even when he was 15 and fought monsters for the family, returning covered in wounds, his father only offered a cold. "You're late. Didn't I order you to finish the subjugation within 3 days?" Zachary responded as if it were routine. He no longer hoped for light in his heart, only wanting to atone to his father through endurance. The Duke, still dissatisfied, delivered a familiar slap. "Useless thing. You can't even handle such a small matter as subjugating monsters." He didn't even have a single memory. In truth, Zachary could no longer feel the pain of this level of force. But suddenly, a strange girl rushed forward. "Greetings, great lord of the North. I am Illyri. Please allow me the audacity to say, the Duke needs immediate treatment. Monsters don't need treatment." Illyri was interrupted by the Duke, distressed, although she was forced to marry to repay a debt. Witnessing this bullying, she couldn't stand idly by, but the Duke isn't a monster. The Duke was amused by these words and laughed. He asked, "What do you think, Zachary? If father thinks I'm a monster, then I am." Hearing the satisfactory answer, the Duke left with his knights, leaving Zachary alone. Seeing this, Illyri wanted to approach and ask about his injuries, but was rebuffed to "Don't come near me." "Who are you?" "I'm your wife." Born into a Viscount family, Illyri's mother fell gravely ill. Her family had no money, so her father had no choice but to borrow from the royal family for treatment. Although her mother eventually recovered, the royal family used the debt as leverage, forcing her to marry the Heisen Duke's monster in place of the princess. Though unwilling, after seeing her father's humble pleas on her behalf, Illyri resolutely chose to travel north. She had prepared herself for a husband who might be a 9-headed monster, but discovered Zachary was just a fragile soul, abused and manipulated. She helped the wounded young man up. The priority was to get him back to his room to rest. Leaning on the girl's shoulder, Zachary smelled the fragrance of her loose hair. His mind filled with the question, "Why is she being kind to me?" After finally managing to stumble into the room, Zachary collapsed. Illyri panicked and immediately called for maids and servants. If he died, she would be a widow. A hand tugged at her clothes that don't call anyone. "I don't want to see anyone because I'm a monster." Illyri felt both heartache and anger. Cupping his face, she said with utmost seriousness, "Listen to me. You are not a monster. Can you stop putting yourself down? It's annoying. Instead of wasting time with this nonsense, you should just let me treat you." Even Zachary, slow as he was, sensed the concern in her words, but he pushed her away. "Why should I listen to you? You don't even know what kind of person I am." He didn't believe kindness existed. Since he was a child, everyone had avoided him, afraid of the mysterious power within him. No one wanted to stay by her side, but Illyri gave a bright, sunny smile that I know. "You're a child in desperate need of healing, and a stubborn one at that. But no matter what, you're definitely not a monster." A small crack seemed to form in Zachary's frozen heart. Still infinitely confused by the girl's closeness, he fainted. Nightmares once again descended upon him. His mother, who cursed him, his father, who loathed him, and the inexplicable, confusing hardships he faced, just as the darkness threatened to suffocate him. A voice drifted into his dream that "Don't you blame me. Get up and take your medicine, you troublesome." Zachary was startled awake. He was surprised to find Illyri still beside him. She offered him a glass of water and a pill. "Take your medicine." "What's wrong? Are you afraid it's bitter? Do you want me to feed it to you?" Zachary expertly tossed the pill into his mouth. No one could endure hardship better than him. A candy was unexpectedly placed at his lips. "Here, have a sweet. It won't taste so bitter then." This was the first time Zachary, at 15 years old, had tasted candy. So sweet. It was a temptation even he, someone who didn't have a sweet tooth, couldn't resist. "Why are you still here?" Illyri replied matter-of-factly, I can't just leave a patient unattended, can I? After hearing what happened, she had only called a doctor to examine him and then took care of him alone for a day and a night that I didn't force you to do this. You're really stubborn, aren't you? Can't you just say thank you? Zach Carey fell silent. He truly didn't understand. So, in this situation, all he had to do was say thank you. Could it be that kindness would actually be bestowed upon him? Thank you. You can leave now. Actually, Zach Carey wanted to spend more time with the girl, that I'm not leaving. You're my lifeline for the future. If something happens to you, and I'm left alone. Illyri saw the gloom troubling the boy. She hoped he would cheer up. She confessed that her own situation wasn't optimistic either. Her family was in debt, and she was sent here as a bride with no way out. And because she was sent by the royal family, the Duke didn't like her. I really need you. I'll do my best to help you. You'll need me in the future too. So, stop belittling yourself and calling yourself a monster. Seeing that the boy's emotions had stabilized, Illyri hopped off the edge of the bed, intending to go back to sleep. She told Zach Carey she'd see him tomorrow. Watching the room darken as the door closed, Zach Carey whispered the girl's name. His heart flew away with her. She said she'd see me tomorrow. She also said she's my wife. What do I do? I've already started to need her. For the next few days, Illyri would go to see Zach Carey, waking him up and changing his bandages. Facing his numerous wounds, she tried her best to be gentle. Does it hurt? It's okay, I can bear it. But Illyri, having been pampered by her parents since childhood, didn't know how to wrap bandages. The loose wrapping on his arm made Zach Carey laugh. He took the gauze and skillfully wrapped it around and around. In no time, he was finished. He showed the girl his handiwork. Illyri looked at it and softly told him to turn around. She sighed, wondering how many times he must have bandaged himself to be so proficient. While applying medicine to his back, a deep scar caught her attention. It looked like it was from a cut, and it was quite old. How did you get this scar? His secret touched. The boy shamefully and instinctively pushed the girl away. Only after meeting her inquisitive emerald eyes did he come back to his senses. Clutching his clothes and backing away, he timidly apologized. This scar was his original sin, and also proof that he was a monster. How could he explain it so she wouldn't look down on him? But Illyri just sighed and didn't press the matter that if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. It's okay. Everyone has a past they don't want to talk about, don't they? Zach Carey was stunned by her consideration. He opened his mouth, but didn't know where to begin. Sensing his embarrassment, Illyri picked up the gauze again and quickly sat down. Let's continue treating your wounds. But despite pretending to be calm, he was still shocked by the countless scars. How could a father be so cruel? It's as if he wanted Baba's son to die early. Thinking about this, Illyri angrily voiced her complaint. Zach Carey blinked. Why is she getting angry? You're my husband by law. If I don't get angry for you, who will? The words husband made the boy's face flush. Do you consider me family? You are my family now. But having said that, Illyri belatedly wondered, is it hard to accept suddenly becoming family with a stranger? Zach Carey was more than willing, but the more willing he was, the more uncertain he became. Can I rely on her? What if I scare her away by being too greedy? Misunderstanding his hesitation, Illyri, ever understanding, suggested, then let's start as friends. The Duke wouldn't agree. I don't care about him. My husband is you, not the Duke. The girl, radiant like a beam of light, illuminated the boy's long darkened heart. He couldn't help but smile, which filled her with joy. You look even better when you smile. If you smiled like this in front of others, they would like you too. But recalling his past smiles, Zach Carey stiffened for a moment. I've smiled before, but it only brought ridicule and scolding. It makes me afraid. However, looking at the girl's pure and beautiful smile, he strengthened his resolve. As long as I can make her happy, even if the whole world scorns me, so be it. Duke Baba's sudden change in demeanor attracted the attention of several maids, gossiping, and it happened to be overheard by the Duke passing by. You say Zach Carey has become gentle? So, early the next morning, he invited his son and daughter-in-law to dine together. Illyri was so nervous, she barely slept all night, afraid that the feuding father and son would clash during the meal. The maids, however, happily dressed her. This is wonderful. It's all thanks to you. The Duke and young Master Zach Carey can finally dine together. Zach Carey, leaning on a cane, appeared with a rare smile. Illyri hadn't expected him to come for her. You haven't recovered yet. Isn't this too much for you? Seeing the boy standing there, looking at her with flushed cheeks and not answering, she worriedly touched his forehead. Your face is so red. Do you have a fever? The sudden physical contact made Zach Carey shyly step back. I don't have a fever. I've been shot by an arrow. Shot through the heart by Cupid's arrow. wielded by a girl who looks like an elf. He even mumbled his feelings. Illyri, you look so beautiful today. Compared to the boy's shyly hidden affection, Illyri was much more open. She complimented him. You look handsome today, too, and took his arm. Are you all right walking? Do you need me to help you? The maids watched the two walk away. The apathetic, world-weary boy and the energetic girl. This CP, I ship it. Later, during the meal, just as Illyri had imagined, both father and son wore cold expressions. The Duke even taunted his son. I hear you've been quite happy lately, getting close to the child the royal family sent. Zachary neither denied nor admitted it. It doesn't matter what I say. Father will interpret it however he wants. At this moment, the Duke's gaze deepened. This is the first time my son has talked back to me. Speaking again, he directed the conversation to Illyri. Do you plan to stay with him indefinitely? You might face trials. Zachary's fingers trembled uncontrollably. His bright blue eyes were now filled with panic. As if sensing his rising anxiety, Illyri made her stance clear with her actions. She bluntly stated that the Duke's current behavior was childish, using his young son against his mother, and calling him a monster repeatedly. You have neither the demeanor of a nobleman, nor the sense of responsibility of a father. You're also trying to force me away from Zachary. So, are you very dissatisfied? Yes, I will cherish and respect my husband. I won't be threatened by you. Upon hearing this, the Duke couldn't help but be enraged. The daughter of a mere viscount dared to lecture him. This time, before Illyri could retort, Zachary, who was standing beside her, couldn't contain himself. Unlike his usual sullenness after being scolded, he stood up to his father. You can call me a monster, but you cannot treat Illyri like this, because she is my wife. Please respect her. The Duke was indignant, but Zachary's words rendered him speechless. He truly had no other heir besides Zachary. We'll see about that. With that, the Duke turned and left. Seeing this, Illyri immediately stood up. Are you all right? Why did you argue with the Duke for me? I'm fine. Zachary unexpectedly took her hand. You argued with him for me, so of course I have to stand up to him for you. I will protect you. I will make you happy. Hearing this, Illyri's face flushed like the afterglow of sunset. Then you have to get better quickly so you can protect me. The next day, Zachary, in typical overbearing husband fashion, moved his little wife to a new room. He had been unhappy with her staying in the simple guest room. The future Duchess of the Duke's estate couldn't be treated so poorly. Basking in the gentle breeze, Illyri felt that the heavens were smiling upon her. Calculating the time, her favorite Yasha flowers would soon be blooming. She had heard that the Yasha Flower Festival in the Duke's territory was famously magnificent. But the Duke really hates me. I doubt he'll let me go out. I'll take you, although I'm not favored. For my wife, this much I can do. So, on the day of the festival, Illyri sat in the carriage, enjoying the sunlight and the sight of the pink Yasha flowers dancing gracefully in the breeze, enthusiastically explaining the origin of the flower's name to Zachary. But all Zachary could think was, she's so cute. He suggested they visit a cafe before the festival. Upon seeing the dazzling array of desserts and drinks, Illyri's eyes lit up. She loved cupcakes and hot milk tea. This place was practically heaven. Her happiness was his happiness. Just then, Illyri offered him a walnut cookie. Open wide. It's not too sweet. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know about this wonderful place. Thank you so much. Come to think of it, marriage isn't so bad. Originally, I didn't plan on getting married. I felt like marriage would only be tiring. But before she could finish, Illyri regretted her words. Her easily upset husband's face fell. He wore the expression of someone whose wife had changed her mind and was about to shut down emotionally. Seeing that he was on the verge of tears, Illyri hurriedly tried to appease him, but it's not that I'm against marriage. As long as the other person is handsome, has a good figure, and is rich, it's not out of the question. Zachary felt even worse after hearing this. Such high standards. He wasn't worthy that I'm talking about you. Do I really meet those criteria? Illyri, you are very important to me. I will strive to be a good husband who cherishes you. Not giving him a chance to wallow, she took his cold, panicked hand. Don't worry, I won't leave you. Stop overthinking. Let's go to the festival. The sky was blue, clouds were white, and flower petals drifted down like rain. The air was filled with the aroma of grilled skewers and bread. Watching the girl, who had just finished a large boba tea and a cupcake, order 4 chicken skewers, Zachary trailed behind her, utterly smitten. Her happiness was more important than anything. Now he believed the saying, double rainbows are a sign of true love. Unfortunately, the day soon came to an end. Street lights illuminated the evening. Children played and chased each other after dinner. Observing all of this, Zachary straightened his posture. In the city governed by the cursed young duke, the people actually seemed so happy. Illyri giggled softly. That's because of you. Everyone can live without worry. You're the one protecting them on the front lines. So forget those unkind words. From now on, just believe in me. Zachary silently tightened his grip on her hand. He wanted to make a promise with her, to be able to attend the festival with him every year after this. Perhaps some things, once you've had them, you can never be angry about again. Suddenly, music started playing. Men and women danced gracefully, bringing the festive atmosphere to a climax. Illyri regretted that they weren't adults yet. Let's dance together next time we come, she said. Just then, a sharp pain shot through her foot. Her new shoes had rubbed a blister on her heel. Zachary immediately took charge. He wouldn't let Illyri suffer any further discomfort, but the intense gazes of the surrounding crowd made the young girl embarrassed. She refused Zachary's offer to carry her to buy medicine. I can wait for you here. Go quickly and come back soon. I'll be right back. But when Zachary returned with the medicine, the trees and lanterns were still there, but she was gone from beneath the tree. After a moment of stunned disbelief, he ran frantically into the crowd, calling Illyri's name and asking passersby if they had seen her. Terror, like a black hole, swallowed all reason. Suddenly, his sharp eyes spotted a shoe lying near the entrance to an alley. After confirming it was Illyri's, a cold fury ignited within Zachary. With each step he took, the ground froze beneath his feet. Following the direction of the shoe, he walked deeper into the alley. When he saw her, her eyes brimming with tears as a ruffian tore at her clothes, Zachary's eyes flashed with a mixture of pain and rage. He clenched his fists, struggling to control his fury. If he lost control, the winter magic within him would destroy the entire area. More importantly, he didn't want his beloved to see him transform into a monster. Close your eyes, he told her. It will be over soon. Illyri obeyed. The instant her eyes closed, a howling wind swept through the alley. The biting wind instantly froze everything in the alley. Zachary saw the men who were accosting Illyri pull out a small knife. Don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll kill her. I'll kill you before you can lay a hand on her. In a flash of blinding light, the man was shot in the head. Blood splattered across Illyri's face. The remaining men, sensing their imminent demise, began to frantically beg for mercy. But Zachary didn't stop. You touched someone you shouldn't have. You have to die. The entire city seemed on the verge of destruction. It was Illyri's tearful voice that brought him back to his senses. Realizing he was losing control again, Zachary was overcome with pain and remorse. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. With this terrible power, am I even human anymore? Illyri, can you tell me I'm not a monster? Hearing him cry, Illyri's heart shattered. It wasn't his fault. You're not a monster. She insisted that I'll always be by your side. You're definitely not a monster. What monster looks as handsome as you? But it's human nature to fear blood and death. Her trembling was misinterpreted by Zachary as fear. Are you afraid of me? Illyri quickly explained, no, it's not that. I just realized I had a knife to my throat. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm sorry I came late. Illyri wanted to reassure him that it was all right, but her overwhelming relief and lingering fear triggered a hyperventilation attack. Seeing her struggling to breathe, Zachary disregarded any sense of propriety. He cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. The kiss was filled with worry and tenderness. They remained like that for a long moment before slowly parting. When they finally returned to the bustling street, Illyri's racing heart finally began to calm. Seeing her limping in pain, Zachary scooped her up into his arms, refusing to let her walk. A bright smile flashed across her face, then slowly faded as she looked down. Thank you for saving me, Zachary. Let's go home. A single tear glistened in the young man's sapphire blue eyes. Let's go home. He thought she would hate him. He hadn't expected such kindness. Even after seeing the real him, she didn't push him away. It was supposed to be a warm spring day, but unexpectedly, snow began to fall. Illyri found the snow beautiful, but to the Duke, the same snow was a chilling omen. He kicked Zachary to the ground. His son's existence was a disgrace to him, a nightmare. The murderer who killed his wife. When he saw snow falling on a warm spring day, the Duke naturally assumed it was his son showing off his powers again, that I know you're useless. But do you have to prove you're a monster this way? Zachary was long accustomed to his father's scolding. But this time he didn't back down. The explanation was that the situation was an emergency. Illyri's life was threatened. He had no choice but to use his winter magic, causing the unusual weather. He was willing to accept punishment. But I was born a monster. Isn't it because I inherited the Heisen family bloodline? Hearing this, the Duke flew into a rage. How dare you say such things to me? Do you know who you made me lose? His fists and feet rained down, landing not only on Zachary's body but also on his heart. Tears welled up in Illyri's eyes. Stop, she cried. As another blow came, Zachary grabbed his father's wrist. That's enough. I won't endure your violence anymore. The Duke, not expecting his son to fight back, became even angrier. Do you know how I felt facing you all these years? Now presented with an opening, Illyri grabbed the Duke's arm. Turning to the girl, the Duke's pupils constricted. A familiar yet unfamiliar face appeared before his eyes. He softly murmured his wife's name, and Wulida loosened his grip. Illyri pleaded, if you must punish someone, punish me. Zachary's magic went out of control because he was saving me. Hearing this, Zachary's heart ached. He pulled Illyri into his arms, comforting her, it's not your fault, while warning his father with his eyes. She was his bottom line, untouchable. That look, however, was so much like his beloved. Through the girl's fragile eyes, the man saw his own pathetic reflection. Once, a similar pair of eyes had looked at him, but without a ripple of emotion. Don't you understand? Tyron, I will never love you. Noticing the change in his father's emotions, Zachary understood it was his lingering grief for his mother. For the first time, he directly confronted the fact that his mother had died because of him. I know who I made you lose. That's why I've always despaired over having such powerful magic. But today I saw so many people. They looked so happy. Illyri made me understand that what I have is the power to benefit the people. It's because I protect this land that people can live without worry. From now on, I will no longer go to the battlefield to atone to you. I will no longer live as a monster. I am a next ruler of the North, and a husband determined to protect his wife. Today is the last time I will endure your violence, because I don't want Illyri to be sad for me anymore. The Duke remained silent for a long time. He waved his hand, leave. As punishment, he confined Zachary to his room for a week. As soon as they returned to their room, Illyri threw herself into Zachary's arms. Tearfully, she apologized that it's all my fault. You used your magic and got hit because of me. Zachary gently wiped away her tears and rested his head on her shoulder, and oh, I'm fine, as long as you weren't punished. On the contrary, I should thank you. You're the first person to speak up for me. Thanks to you, I was able to bravely tell my father it wasn't my fault. So remember, you are the miracle and salvation in my life. During the week of confinement, Illyri visited Zachary every day. She would stand outside his door and tell him about recent interesting events. Although they couldn't see each other, their hearts were together. Zachary hoped time would pass quickly, so he could inherit the title and better protect her. Perhaps his sincerity was rewarded. Time flew by like a rocket, arriving 3 years later. Watching the young man become increasingly heroic and valiant, Illyri felt a surge of pride. She would confidently and generously call him her husband in front of everyone. Zachary, despite his usual tough guy demeanor, would blush, shyly grab his wife's hand, and quickly slip away. But besides being shy, he was also jealous. He didn't understand why, even if Illyri came to see him. She always brought snacks for the knights. I'm nice to them, so they'll be nice to you, she'd explain. But the way they look at you isn't right. Some of them even blush. Zachary's rambling was, in Illyri's eyes, quite endearing. At least he was much more cheerful than before, and he could clearly express his opinions now. Enjoying the tranquil time under the setting sun, Illyri couldn't help but sigh at how wonderful life was now. If she hadn't taken the princess's place in marrying Zachary, perhaps she would never have met him in her life. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew a stray eyelash into her eye. Try as she might, she couldn't get it out. Zachary cupped Illyri's face, wanted to blow it away for her, but paused when his hand touched her soft skin. He recalled the time he had to give her artificial respiration. Blushing, he gently blew on her eye and quickly withdrew his hand. Oblivious, Illyri didn't notice Zachary's shyness. She stood up, reminding him it's time to go back and have dinner with the Duke. Zachary grumbled and whined, refusing to leave unless she held his hand. Honestly, you're so childish for someone your age. Even if I'm being childish, you can't spoil me all the time. Over the past 3 years, the Duke seemed to have gradually accepted Illyri. Seeing her looking cold, he immediately ordered the servants to light the fireplace. He knew she liked chocolate eclairs, so he often had the chef make them. Although the Duke would still lash out, calling his son a monster, he never never laid a hand on him again. But every time he saw Illyrie smile, he felt a pang of pain, because his wife had never smiled at him or their young son. Were he and his son destined to never be as happy as these two? Later, the Duke assigned his son the task of subduing the barbarian tribes. With his mysterious winter magic, Zachary was invincible, but Illyrie was still worried and confused. Why another expedition? When she learned that Zachary was so frequently sent out to fight, it was actually to protect her and appease the royal family. Illyrie lowered her head, guilt-ridden, "I'm sorry. It's all my fault." The royal family had originally intended to marry her, a commoner, into the ducal family to sow discord. Unexpectedly, her presence had actually improved the relationship between the Duke and his son. So, the royal family changed their tactics, hoping Zachary would die in battle. That way, the ducal family would have no heir. Seeing his wife's low spirits, Zachary quickly tried to comfort her. He even offered her a chocolate eclair, but Illyrie had no appetite. That night, unable to sleep, she climbed a large tree and gazed into the distance, filled with guilt. She hadn't provided any help to Zachary, and had even put him in danger, constantly having to go in a battle. Lost in thought, she heard a voice from below. "That's dangerous." It was Zachary, worried about his wife's melancholy, who had come looking for her. He carried her to a wicker chair and immediately saw through her worries. "Are you still upset about what my father said at dinner? It's all because of me that you're constantly being sent to the battlefield. I don't deserve you going through so much for me." Before she could finish, Zachary wrapped the shawl he'd brought around her shoulders. He gently and firmly expressed how important she was to him. His word about her being his salvation weren't a joke, so she shouldn't belittle herself. Illyrie smiled. She hadn't expected to hear those words directed back at her. The next day, Zachary led his troops to war. Illyrie and the Duke came to see him off. "You mustn't get hurt, or I'll be angry." The young man affectionately extended his hand for a pinky promise and placed a light kiss on Illyrie's forehead. "Give me a month. I'll definitely be back." Although she was used to farewells, Illyrie still felt a sense of loss as she watched the now empty gate. Then, the Duke, standing behind her, called her by her name. Tell him he should also learn to manage the auxiliary internal affairs. However, the royal family's recommended teacher isn't very observant. Illyrie understood the Duke's character. She would never let the other party take control. And sure enough, the Countess arrived, making a show of force. She purposely chose lunchtime for her visit. Then she addressed Illyrie's mother, clearly not treating her as a member of the Hyson Dukedom. Finally, she rambled on for hours, boasting and bragging about how many people admired the young Duke. She mocked Illyrie's background as being unworthy, saying that if given the chance, she'd also like to marry her daughter into the family. Illyrie bluntly stated that the woman couldn't distinguish between major and minor demons. Wasn't she afraid of being reported for such blatant rudeness? It was the Duke who became angry. The Countess could face serious consequences, seeing that she had kicked an iron plate and it was hard to handle. The Countess pretended to comply, promising Illyrie she wouldn't overstep her bounds. But in reality, she schemed to interfere in the internal affairs of the Duke's household. That day, she snatched a maid's key and entered the former Duchess's room. Seeing the room filled with flowers, she angrily pulled them out, thinking how lucky Adélaïde was to be painting even before her death. If only she had been able to marry into a good family. She ordered the carpet to be replaced with one she liked. The maid, after some thought, replied that she needed to ask the young Duchess first. Unexpectedly, she received a hard slap across the face. "You lowly servant, how dare you talk back to me?" Illyrie, alerted by the commotion, arrived and had the beaten maid taken away. She asked the Countess what had happened. "I was helping you discipline an unruly servant. That's not something an outsider like you needs to worry about. Besides, didn't you know this room is off limits? I advise you to leave before this reaches the Duke's ears." Although the Countess was unwilling, she could only tuck her tail between her legs and slink away. Illyrie felt overwhelmed. This woman was a constant source of trouble. Her gaze fell upon her surroundings, and she noticed that her mother-in-law's room was filled with flowers. Regarding the flowers, both Duchess Zachary and the Duke remained silent. Just because she didn't ask didn't mean she wasn't curious. She wanted to see the traces her mother-in-law had left behind. Entering the room, Illyrie stopped beside a sketchbook. Opening it, she saw that it was filled with drawings of the Duke's household staff. But among so many people, Zachary and the Duke were notably absent. Holding the sketchbook, even Illyrie, slow as she could be, understood the implications. Just then, a maid mentioned that there was also a portrait of the Duchess in the portrait room, likely of the young Duke. Illyrie was lost in thought. She wasn't yet allowed in the portrait room when she was informed that the Duke had summoned her. News of the Countess barging in and hitting the maid had spread. The Duke was furious. Did she think she could run wild just because she was sent by the royal family? He didn't blame Illyrie. Instead, he brought up the portrait room, saying he would take her there soon. After all, Zack Carey cherishes you very much. Illyrie sensed approval in the Duke's words. Suddenly, she noticed a bottle of medicine on the table. Are you unwell, Your Grace? Noticing her gaze, the Duke quickly picked up the bottle and put it in a drawer. He said he was fine and dismissed her. In the following days, the Countess, far from restraining herself, became even more outrageous. Not only did she want to reduce the knights' salaries, but she even refused to issue them their protective leather jackets. She argued, after all, we have the young Duke's winter power. Illyrie's face darkened upon hearing this. Were they afraid of Zack Carey because he was a monster? Did they want to exploit his power while cowering in their shells? They wanted to become immortals while still living on Earth, wanting heaven but not wanting to give up their earthly comforts. Illyrie was about to retort when Zack Carey, who had ridden 8 horses to death to see her sooner, interrupted. He caressed her cheek, finally back from the subjugation. But the young Duchess didn't express the joy of a reunion after a long absence. She was more concerned about the other knights. Did you see the Duke first? They're probably still back there listening. I came to find you as soon as I returned. I can see him anytime anyway. You can see me anytime too, but it's not the same. I can never get enough of looking at you. Illyrie was dazed by the boy's playful manner. She noticed his dark circles and straightened his clothes. He told her to go back to her room and rest after seeing the Duke. Illyrie meant well, but Zack Carey looked at her with eyes full of cheek. He knew his feelings for her were different from hers, but her gentleness was too sweet. Yet whenever he thought about her tenderness, and how it wasn't born from romantic love, he felt incredibly disappointed. He loved her. He considered her the only light in his life. He would never let her go, not in this life or the next. The Countess, standing nearby, couldn't help but step forward. She praised Zack Carey, saying how dashing he looked now. As his aunt, she was very pleased. Then she started crying and complaining about how Illyrie had insulted her. Unfortunately, Zack Carey wasn't buying it. He had heard their entire conversation from outside the door. He could tolerate these people looking down on him, but they dared to bully his precious wife. He immediately gave the order for the woman to return from wherever she came. The Countess hurriedly brought up the royal family as a shield. The young man smiled, 3 parts cold for parts indifferent. He seemingly just lightly moved his little finger, and the woman immediately felt as if a thick, wet towel was wrapped around her throat. Unable to breathe, I think you've forgotten whose territory you're on. My mother was born into your family. That's the only reason I tolerate your arrogance. But my patience is wearing thin. You'd best disappear immediately. Watching the Countess flee in panic, Illyrie couldn't help but worry. Chasing away someone from the royal family like this. I'm afraid. Suddenly, a warm body pressed close to her, and a kiss landed on her neck. It was Zack Carey, acting coquettishly and asking her to sing him a lullaby to help him sleep. I've been fighting monsters this whole time. I'm afraid I'll dream of their corpses. His voice grew quieter and quieter. Illyrie's heart clenched. Her heart ached for him, wondering what hardships he had endured to return safely. Softened, she agreed. But she also teased him about being so clingy to, I don't know who you take after. I don't know either, but I know who turned me into such a spoiled brat. They returned to their room. One went to bathe, and the other waited in the bedroom. While waiting, Illyrie listened to the sound of running water, her face flushed and her heart pounding. She kept repeating to herself, Zack Carey is like a little brother, just a little brother. But when her little brother appeared, shirtless and with a handsome face, it took Illyrie a full 3 seconds to react. She told him to lie down on the bed. She applied medicine to his wounds, one by one, while scolding him for breaking his promise. Didn't we agree you wouldn't get hurt? Unlike the first time, she clumsily bandaged him. Illyrie's bandaging skills had become much more refined. After finishing, she packed up the medicine box, intending to leave. But Zack Carey in the bed wasn't happy. You promised to sing a lullaby. You're not going back on your word, are you? Seeing no way out, Illyrie coughed strategically and sat on the edge of the bed. The next second, her pure, spring-like singing voice drifted into the boy's heart like feathers. Every inch it floated made his heart flutter. Seeing Zack Carey close his eyes and drift off to sleep, she whispered, Thank you for today. Good night. Sweet dreams. Afraid of waking him, Illyri left quietly. But as soon as the door closed, the seemingly sleeping boy rolled over and buried his face in the pillow, blushing to the tips of his ears. He kept whispering Illyri's name. Meanwhile, the fleeing countess found her husband, wanting to complain about their son. She accused the young duke of threatening her to protect his wife. The duke calmly replied, "A husband protecting his wife is only natural. I can't interfere. Besides," he added, "we haven't settled the score for her barging into the former duchess's room. Since his son didn't want her near his wife either, he might as well send Illyri back." The woman was actually a spy, painstakingly planted in the duke's household by the crown prince. But before he could even complete a full attendance record, he was dismissed. After his departure, life returned to its former bottleneck. Free from his expedition, Zachary spent his time inspecting his territory and doting on his wife, building her large snowmen as gifts. He was utterly captivated by her soft embrace. But one day, as Illyri waited by the window for her husband, a servant informed her that the duke requested her presence in the portrait room. There, she beheld the beauty of a late duchess, and it seemed Zachary had inherited most of his looks from his mother. The duke appeared beside her at some point, and speaking of his wife, his expression was always a mixture of joy and sorrow. She was beautiful and kind, but not happy. I sometimes wonder if Zachary and I were the cause of her death. Illyri wanted to offer words of comfort, but her gaze was drawn to a painting covered by a black cloth. The duke encouraged her to unveil it if she was curious. When the cloth was removed, the image that struck her eyes was of a young Zachary. "This is my wife, witnessing the monster she brought into this world. Do you want to know how my wife died?" The duke's grief suddenly turned to anger. Just as the truth was about to be revealed, a pair of hands covered the painting again. Zachary's face darkened as he asked, "What is Illyri doing here?" "She's a member of the family. Of course, she has the right to be in the portrait room." "On the contrary, why didn't you ask for my permission before showing her that painting? You're becoming increasingly arrogant. I think you need to reflect on your mother." This last sentence was directed at his son. The duke's words were not only sharp, but they also cut deep. Zachary gritted his teeth, speechless. After the brief unveiling, every word he choked out trembled. "Illyri, let's go. Please." Feeling the sharp grip on her wrist, the young woman realized she might have caused trouble. It seemed she had unveiled a secret Zachary wanted hidden from the world. After being dragged a short distance, her wrist was hurting so badly that Illyri cried out. Zachary instantly snapped out of his anger and shame. Seeing the mark his rough grip had left on her fair skin, he remorsefully took her hand, hoping to soothe the pain with the coolness of his lips. He confessed, "My shadow, I like you very much, so I only want to show you my good side. There are many things I don't want you to know. I know it's wrong, but the thought of you possibly hating me, it scares me." Zachary grew more agitated as he spoke, but Illyri, seeing the pain in his eyes, embraced him, apologizing. It was all her fault. He had promised her he could choose not to talk about those painful things, but she hadn't been able to overcome her curiosity, and now he was hurt. She decided that no matter what, she would wait until he was ready to tell her. Looking at the face she longed for, after some hesitation and struggle, Zachary recounted how his mother had died because of him. He dejectedly assumed that she would hate him now. "These past years must have been very hard for you. You must have been so heartbroken and no one understood you. But it's okay. I understand you." These words instantly transformed the imposing man into a vulnerable mess. Perhaps through Illyri, he would gradually come to understand that those who love you don't care about your past. They care more about the pain you've endured than any unintentional mistakes you've made. Don't cry. I don't want to make you cry. I still want you to be my model. Noticing the portrait room, filled with family members, lacked a portrait of his wife, he diligently practiced painting, wanting to create a portrait of her to hang there. Unfortunately, his skill level was far from capturing her beauty. Meanwhile, Zachary sat perfectly still lost in the tenderness of the moment. He would occasionally steal glances at his wife. He found her even more beautiful when she was completely focused. But the painting never made it to the portrait room. Illyri, feeling it wasn't good enough, wanted to throw it away. Zachary, however, treasured it like a precious gem and had it expensively framed, hung in the study in the most prominent spot, visible every day. To repay her family's debts, she was forced to marry the rumored monster. 5 years passed. She gradually fell in love with this monster, although he was feared by the world for his earth-shattering power. But in reality, he was a crybaby, a winner, and a cuddler who treasured his wife. In order to hug his wife, he chose to lift her onto the horse, despite knowing many other mounting methods. Hillary blushed, but she didn't mind. Then Zachary leaped onto the horse himself. He put his arms around his wife. The two rode together on the same horse that I'll take you to my secret base. This was the little Southern Potato's first time riding a horse. Listening to the sound of hooves and feeling the free wind, Hillary felt as if the whole world was beneath her feet. When they reached the depths of the forest, Zachary stopped. He explained that this was a place he had discovered by chance. Unlike the majestic manor of the Duke's mansion, the snowy scenery before them was naturally formed. The sculpted maiden was almost too beautiful to be true. Little did she know, her every smile and frown was also truly beautiful to the man beside her. The two of them, on one horse, rode from a shy morning to a sentimental afternoon. On the way back, Hillary leaned against Zachary, the corners of her lips slightly upturned. She was still immersed in a lingering affection when an attendant came running in a panic. The royal family had sent an envoy. The Duke was looking for them. Hearing that the royal family had sent someone, Hillary couldn't help but feel a pang of anxiety. Were they here to reprimand them? To blame them for driving away the Countess? Sensing his wife's unease, Zachary comforted her. It should be for my coming-of-age ceremony. Mentioning the coming-of-age ceremony, he praised the cake Hillary made last year. Why don't you prepare some this year, too? The young woman's attention was indeed diverted. No longer nervous, she began to think about what birthday present to give Zachary. Upon seeing the young Duke, the envoy first congratulated him on his upcoming adulthood. Then he conveyed the decree that the crown prince and princess would personally come to the Duke's mansion to celebrate his birthday. Zachary was surprised by such a grand gesture. His father, however, wasn't surprised at all by the news. He entrusted the responsibility of both the hunting competition and the birthday banquet to Hillary. However, everything was to be carried out under the Countess's guidance. Upon hearing this, Zachary immediately wanted to object. Hillary stopped his protective behavior. She understood. This was her first time attending a public event as the future mistress of the Duke's mansion. Having the Countess's involvement would be very encouraging for her. She believed that the Duke must have his reasons for doing this. She also believed that she could handle it perfectly. But Zachary couldn't bear to see his wife wronged. Afterward, he stormed into his father's study to confront him. The Duke explained that he had complained to the Crown Prince about the Countess's involvement. Now was not the time for them to fall out with the royal family. Everything had to wait until he successfully inherited the dukedom. He suspected the Crown Prince's visit to the north was ostensibly for official business. But in reality, it was to assess the situation at the Duke's mansion. As for Hillary's desire to protect him, her role was crucial. After Zachary nodded and was about to leave, he hesitated for a moment. He finally said, "Thank you for your reminder." The next day, Hillary began preparations for the hunting competition and the banquet. Unsurprisingly, she and the Countess disagreed on almost everything. The Countess proposed to take full charge of the young ladies' tea party. After some consideration, Hillary agreed. After all, she had to give face to the royal family. However, the Countess's proposal and budget were utterly outrageous. A cost of $900 billion? She could arrange cupcakes around the earth 250 times with that amount. Hillary told the Countess to take it back and revise it. After seeing the Countess off, she collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted. Suddenly, a pair of hands covered her eyes. Guess who? Who else could it be? It had to be Zachary. The man, whose little game was seen through, pouted unhappily. But upon seeing the young woman smile, he cheered up again. He played with his hair, asking if things were going smoothly. Hillary admitted that while the Countess was a bit difficult, she could manage. Zachary's face immediately darkened. He asked if she needed him to take care of it. Hillary waved her hand dismissively. It was her responsibility. Confident in his wife's abilities, Zachary didn't want to interfere too much. Putting his ring back on, he said, "For this coming-of-age ceremony, I want to invite my parents-in-law." He had already made a deal with his father. In exchange, he needed to hunt small magical beasts on the outskirts of the family territory. Hillary frowned with worry. "If you're pushing yourself just to invite my parents, it's not a burden. I want to prove to your parents that marrying me wasn't a mistake. You're doing well here. It's just some small magical beasts. I won't make you wait long." Hillary was persuaded. Looking into his eyes, she saw a shimmering pool reflecting only his image. The day of the banquet arrived quickly. In a soft champagne-colored gown, Illyri looked both noble and mysterious. She greeted the guests with familiarity, chatting and laughing. She had spent several nights memorizing the guest list. A couple slowly approached in the distance, filling her with joy. It was her father and mother. Since she had come to live here alone at the age of 13, Illyri hadn't seen her parents. Reunited, she rushed to her mother, embracing her. She showered her mother with questions. Was she well? Was the journey tiring? Though she had so much to say, as the hostess, she needed to greet the other guests first. Zachary, witnessing the scene, was secretly pleased. It seemed his decision was right. His wife was happy. He called out to Illyri, and she turned, her smile radiant. The sight rooted Zachary to the spot. His heart leaped like a startled bird. He had seen her just a short while ago, yet his heart still raced. Just then, the untimely announcement of the crown prince and princess's arrival echoed through the hall. The Duke stepped forward first to greet them. The young couple followed, bowing respectfully. Noticing Illyri, the crown prince couldn't help but praise her beauty. Duke Xiao's wife is truly stunning, but his gray eyes, a symbol of royal lineage, made Illyri uncomfortable. Stepping aside slightly, the crown prince revealed his sister behind him. It was Illyri's first time meeting the princess. The woman's beauty was like a brilliant jewel shining in the darkness. While Illyri was still captivated, the crown prince abruptly shifted his praise to Zakhar, single-handedly wiping out an entire barbarian horde. The silver dragon's power is truly impressive. Illyri immediately bristled. He was so rude. It was because of the silver dragon's power that Zachary had been compared to it in the first place. Whose fault was it? Why pick on that to praise him? The Duke stepped in. You're right. Achieving such a feat at only 20 is indeed something to be proud of. I'm not being biased. He is truly suited to be the next leader of the North. Praise should be given publicly in the spotlight. Illyri was pleased with the Duke's straightforward way of acknowledging her husband. After attending to the royals, Zachary suggested Illyri spend time with her parents. They must have much to catch up on after so long. Illyri's mother was happy to see her daughter doing well, but her father was a blubbering mess. He couldn't bear to hear his precious daughter call another man handsome, even if the guy really was handsome. He was still the pig who stole his cabbage. As her father was getting worked up, the Duke approached and sincerely thanked them for raising Illyri so well. Zachary also presented his legendary King's battle record, which meticulously documented his 999 plus kills and assists. Under his leadership, monster invasions in the territory had decreased. He knew there were many negative rumors about him, but he would prove with his actions that his wife was safe. He adored the Duke. The father and son's actions left Illyri's parents speechless and unsure of what to say. Seeing this, Illyri led her parents away to dance, easing the awkwardness. Afterward, she tightly held Zachary's hand. Zachary, thank you so much, and thank the Duke as well. She could feel their respect and sincerity. This way, no one will look down on the Browns. Zachary smiled at Miss Highsun beside him. Would you like to dance the first dance of the night with me? Of course, it would be my honor. Almost as soon as the first note sounded, Zachary skillfully took the young lady into his arms, moving gracefully to the rhythm. Illyri couldn't help but wonder, when did he become such a good dancer? I secretly practiced for a long time so I could dance with you. For me? Of course. Is there any other reason besides you? The distance between them suddenly closed. Illyri was afraid her heart, pounding like a startled deer, would leap out. Watching the two immersed in their romantic bubble, the Crown Prince's eyes narrowed. Miss Brown is truly a captivating woman. I think I understand why Duke Xiao is so fond of her. I must have her. For some reason, the princess's expression turned serious. The song ended, and Zachary told Illyri to wait while he got her a drink. But as soon as he left, a group of noble ladies surrounded Illyri, envious of how much Duke Xiao doted on her. So the rumors about Duke Xiao changing after marriage are true. Even the Countess has calmed down quite a bit. But it's hard to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's great. The princess, who had once been engaged to Zachary, had become the couple's biggest fan. She generously praised their love, but her brother, the Crown Prince, seemed determined to steal Illyri away. He first tested the waters by using female pronouns once or twice. When Zachary firmly corrected him, he quickly apologized, pretending it was a slip of the tongue. To make up for my rudeness, may I have this dance? I'm sorry, Your Highness. You may find it hard to believe, but I'm a hopelessly devoted husband. I don't want to see Illyri dance with anyone else. Perhaps you join me for a drink instead? I'm sure you can handle a drink. Thus, enraged on behalf of his beloved, even without peanuts. The two engaged in a fierce drinking competition. The princess understood Zachary's drinking habits well. The current, emotionally stable Zachary, diligently developing the North, was a major concern for her. So she wanted to steal the man's beloved and then marry him into the Duke's house to gain control of the military. But this wasn't the wedding Illyri wanted. She frankly expressed her hope that she and Zachary would always be happy together. The drinking contest finally ended when the crown prince was carried away. Zachary wasn't much better off, his eyes unfocused and his face flushed. Illyri's worry turned to annoyance. Scolding Zachary for drinking too much, she prepared to help him back to their room. Zachary whined and clung to her, refusing to leave. He wanted to stay with her. Having no other choice, she took him to the courtyard to sober up. But the alcohol only intensified his emotions. Zachary felt incredibly wronged. Why was she being so harsh with him? He couldn't help drinking so much. It was all the crown prince's fault, that annoying guy brazenly flirting with her, that I really hate him. You're my wife. That ginger hair dog, he's disgusting. Illyri quickly hushed him, scolding, Are you crazy? That's the crown prince. What if someone hears you? Maybe I am crazy. If I really am crazy, it's because of you. Suddenly so close, Illyri felt dazed. Was he going to kiss her? Did a kiss while drunk even count? Just then, the men carrying the crown prince away shouted for the path to be cleared. When Zachary's mind regained some clarity, he decided a drunken kiss would be disrespectful. But the abrupt stop was hurtful. Illyri's face darkened. He called him an idiot and a fool and left. Zachary mistakenly thought his anger was directed at him for his offense. He was thinking about how to apologize the next day, but his thoughts were interrupted by a fit of coughing. It was his father coughing up blood in the study. He rushed forward and asked, What's wrong? He had seen his father cough like this once before, but at the time, he had just said it was a cold. How could a cold be this serious? Seeing his son's concerned and filial expression, the Duke asked, Are you worried about me? Have you forgotten how I always wanted to drive you away? Zachary, nurtured by Illyri's love, was no longer fragile and sensitive. Having found his self-worth, he was no longer saddened by his father's taunts. He was more confident than ever that the future of the Heisen family belonged to him. His son was growing more and more into a true heir, yet the Duke felt no satisfaction. On the contrary, he felt regret. Was he only now trying to be a good father? He asked his son a question. Have you ever considered that Illyri might be ruined because of you? What will you do then? Zachary had pondered this question more than once. Was it right or wrong for him to keep Illyri by his side so that he could survive? Did he even have a right to love her? After a long pause, he answered, Illyri is the only miracle and light in my life. I want her to be happy. She will only be happy by my side. So I will do everything in my power, even if it costs me my life. I've never thought about letting her leave me. I can't even imagine her leaving me. Perhaps I inherited this from you. The Duke fell silent. Wasn't he also a weak man who couldn't live without begging for love and warmth from his beloved? But his love had killed his wife, who could have lived a peaceful life. He dismissed his son, who wanted to ask more, telling him to just wait to inherit the dukedom. He instructed Zachary to keep this matter hidden from Illyri. One day, during a hunting event, Zachary sought out Illyri to greet her. However, Illyri was evasive with him. The kiss from the previous night had disturbed the young woman's heart. Afraid of revealing her feelings, she excused it as drunken foolishness. Zachary hung his head, pathetically apologizing. I will never make that mistake again. Meanwhile, due to low energy, whenever someone was happy, there was bound to be someone else experiencing the opposite. At this moment, the crown prince, braving the north wind, felt cold and nauseous. He complained that nothing had gone his way since arriving in the north. Oh, except for meeting Illyri, at least. He seemed to still be thinking about Yasha's blessing. The thought of taming the fierce kitten excited the crown prince. But Zachary, fully charged after embracing Illyri, made his stance clear. He drew his bow and aimed at the man on horseback. Crown Prince, is this how brazenly you flaunt your intentions in broad daylight? As the arrow flew, the Crown Prince instinctively closed his eyes. But the expected pain didn't come. Instead, a silver fox behind him yelped, struck in the eye. Ignoring the Crown Prince's livid face, Zachary went to retrieve the fox. He was relieved that the fur wasn't damaged. It would make a perfect fur piece for Illyri. Zachary, showing off his love, spoke of his worries about his wife. Just someone getting close to her made him uneasy. Before leaving, he asked the Crown Prince, "Don't you feel lucky? If my hand had slipped, that arrow might not have hit the fox." Even the obtuse Crown Prince understood the threat. Shooting the silver fox over his shoulder was a clear warning. But the more threatened he felt, the more defiant he became. He enjoyed the challenge of obtaining and then destroying what belonged to others. At the tea party, Illyri was unaware that she had become a target. The Countess was shamelessly speaking on behalf of the Heisen family. She even subtly tried to usurp Illyri's position. Illyri calmly sipped her tea, indifferent to her antics. The noble ladies all sighed inwardly at her courage. The princess, however, declined. The Countess invited Illyri to sit beside her. For a time, everyone chatted and laughed, the atmosphere harmonious and pleasant. Seeing the attention shift away from her, the Countess grew suspicious again. She offered a plate of pastries to the princess. "This is a cake I specially ordered for you, princess. Please try it." The princess looked interested but hadn't yet taken any. Illyri's voice interrupted. "During the banquet preparations, I specifically told you the princess is allergic to peanuts. Yet, you've forgotten something that could be life-threatening. You brought a cake with peanut butter for the princess to try." Illyri's reasoned argument left the Countess speechless. She bowed at a 90-degree angle to apologize to the princess. But the princess scolded her, saying her actions almost ruined the royal family and their connection to the princess's family. She also demanded an apology to Illyri. The Countess inwardly cursed, but knowing discretion is the better part of valor, she lowered her not-so-noble head. Seizing the opportunity, the princess suggested a walk around the gardens with Illyri. She apologized for the Countess's rudeness, saying she likely acted so presumptuously because of the royal family's backing. The princess's candor surprised Illyri. She ventured to ask a question that had been on her mind. "Is your relationship with your brother very bad?" She had previously noticed a bruise on the princess's wrist. The princess self-deprecatingly replied, "I'm just a noblewoman. My only purpose is to be married off. My brother is the crown prince and possesses the blessing of Yasha. It's normal for him to look down on me. I often fantasize about what it would be like if I weren't a princess." Sensing the princess's growing distress, Illyri, understanding her difficult life, urged her not to give up on herself. "But what is this blessing of Yasha?" "The crown prince has a big secret. He can charm people. While he can't completely control them, he can make people like him. It's said that the direct bloodline of the Heisen family is immune to this power." The princess warned Illyri to be wary. "Kazaganus is very interested in you. Be careful what he might do." Illyri thanked her, thinking she was already quite fed up with the crown prince. By now, those who had been hunting were returning with their trophies. But Zachary was not among them. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out, "T.O. send a low-born daughter to be the next duchess." "Lady Brown, you're truly resourceful." Marriage was Illyri's untouchable bottom line. She rushed to her mother's side and loudly questioned the Countess. "How much trouble do you need to cause today to meet your quota? You tried to curry favor with the princess, only to nearly cause her an allergic reaction through your carelessness. Not only did you disrespect me, but you also publicly insulted my mother. You're acting inhumanely." Illyri's words left the Countess speechless. Zachary, having heard the commotion, arrived on the scene. He scolded the Countess. "You don't know what's good for you. It seems my last warning wasn't enough. My wife has shown you so much consideration, and you're still ungrateful. I don't need explanations. I've seen it with my own eyes. Don't call me nephew. Address me as young duke." Then, with all the nobles watching, Zachary bowed to his mother-in-law and apologized. Respect earns trust. Before leaving, Illyri's mother acknowledged her son-in-law. "I entrust my daughter to your care. I believe you will take good care of her." Zachary lived up to the expectations. Holding a freshly hunted silver fox, he proudly presented it to Illyri. He remembered she was always cold. "A silver fox's fur is warmer than other animals. It's so soft. Thank you. Is a verbal thank you all I get, Zachary? Won't you give me a hug?" A blush crept across the young woman's cheeks. It was the first time he had shown such affection in public. "There's no helping you. But you can't divorce me now." Watching their intimacy, the crown prince's stomach churned with resentment. Being loathed by his father and resented by his mother was his destiny. He had assumed his life would be consumed by the thrill of the kill, but a girl had found her way into his heart. Unlike him, wallowing in the mire, she was a gesang flower, nourished by love. Watching the mother and daughter sharing confidences in the light, Zachary stood frozen outside the door. This loving affection was something he had never known. This place didn't seem like somewhere he belonged. But just as he was about to slip away, quietly, Illyri's voice called out from behind him, asking what he was doing at the door. "Come in with me." "But what? Your family too." Pulled into the room, he felt a pang of guilt, like a thief, as her parents looked at him questioningly. His face flushed crimson. He masked his embarrassment with a booming greeting. But his father-in-law's concerned remark about him being busy until so late and exhausted made him feel like a child caught red-handed. Their acceptance, however, made his throat tighten with emotion. He felt even more ashamed of his behavior earlier that day, publicly humiliating someone while rescuing his mother. Bowing again, he apologized. "I'm so sorry. My family was terribly rude." Ilari reached out to help him up, but was startled by the icy chill of his hand. She wondered how long he had been standing outside. She led him to a seat and offered him a glass of warm milk to help him sleep. Her mother brought over some cookies, urging Zachary to try them. Her father suggested, "Shouldn't we get some meat? Tofu and milk together is so strange, isn't it? Doesn't it clash?" "Of course it does." Listening to her parents bicker, Ilari smiled wryly. Beside her, Zachary took a sip of the warm milk. As warmth flowed through him, he thought about mutual respect and love. This was the kind of family environment Ilari had grown up in. That's why she could love someone without any prejudice. But, accustomed to the sunlight, would she find his family oppressive? Lost in thought, he was startled when his father-in-law changed the subject. "Now that you're my daughter's husband, we're family. We only hope that you can love her as much as she loves you." Zachary's expression brightened. He promised, "No matter what, I'll do everything in my power to make Ilari happy. I'm truly grateful that you consider me family. I look forward to your guidance." "We should be thanking you for saying that." No. I should be thanking you for entrusting your daughter to me." Ilari, unable to watch their excessive formality, looped her arm through Zachary's. "It's getting late. We should all go to bed." On their way, Ilari sighed, relieved that the day's events were finally over. After the coming-of-age ceremony, Zachary will be 20. That means he'll be an adult, right? The thought seemed to come out of nowhere. Her face bloomed like a spring flower. Under his unwavering gaze, Zachary asked if she had something to say. "No, then I'll see you tomorrow." But before parting, he drew close until their bodies were almost touching. He gently embraced her and kissed her forehead. "Good night. Sweet dreams." Flustered, Ilari replied, "You too," and hurried away. Once the door closed, Zachary's smile faded. Once he inherited the dukedom and Ilari officially became the duchess, he knew their conflict with the royal family would likely intensify, but he vowed to protect her. The next day was the coming-of-age ceremony. Ilari, filled with nervous anticipation, practiced with her attendant, Shiklabak. He complained, "I've taught you so many times, and you still can't get the steps right. There's no helping you." Zachary watched the young woman, a smile playing on his lips. Her eyes sparkled like stars. Today, they both wore blue, a shade even brighter than the summer sky, bluer than the deepest ocean. That was the color of his eyes. Just stepping into the silver-weaving hall again made Zachary feel faint. This was his first time here since his mother's death. But in the next second, his mother's distant figure transformed into Ilari's smile. She enthusiastically explained the decorations, detailing all the little touches she'd added. "Oh, and by the way, happy birthday, Zachary. We'll have a private celebration later, just the two of us." Hearing "just the two of us" twice made Zachary blush. He couldn't wait to finish the ceremony and get to the evening. Fortunately, the ritual was simple. Distinguished guests offered him their blessings, placing a crown on his head and sprinkling him with holy water. First, his father. "May you become the true Duke Heisenberg, the crown prince. May you be the strongest left and right hand of the royal family." Facing the red-haired monster who wanted to steal Ilari away, Zachary thought, forget left and right hand, he'd be grateful just to be friends. Next came the princess and his in-laws. "Congratulations on your coming of age. We hope you and your wife will have a long and happy life together. We hope you will become an excellent husband that Ilari can rely on." After receiving these blessings, Zachary looked at the last person. She dipped her slender fingers in the holy water and touched his hair. "I hope we get along well in the future, too." The boy she used to pat on the head was growing into a strong young man. Ilari felt both relieved and a pang of heartache. He had worked hard to get here, and as the sun set, she bid farewell to her sleepless nights. Night fell, and the main event for the newlyweds arrived. Zachary, blindfolded, asked his wife, "When can I take this off?" When the match illuminates the room, Ilari told him, "You can take off your blindfold then." "Happy 20th birthday, my dear husband." She had prepared a cake. Although she could never quite get the dough to rise properly, she had decorated it herself. She had also made him a bracelet. "I heard that if two people wear matching bracelets and cut them together after a year, they'll be happy forever. I have one last gift for you, but you have to close your eyes first." Zachary obediently closed his eyes. Ilari placed her hand on his chest. Her eyes glistened with nervousness. She gently pressed her lips to his ear. Will this gift make him happy? Feeling the warmth on his cheek, Zachary gasped and recoiled. This was the first time Ilari had initiated non-comforting physical contact with him. He had always been the one to initiate closeness. He was already overwhelmed that she accepted him, but she had actually kissed him. Before tears could well up, he tightly embraced her. His throat felt tight, and his voice was hoarse that I really hope we can stay together like this forever. Illyri's eyes curved in a crescent that I'll always be by your side. You know, there's a coming-of-age tradition to kiss your lover. Zachary's soaring heart plummeted. So she had only kissed him because of tradition? Just then, Illyri stepped forward. That kiss was your gift. This kiss is to follow tradition. The sudden joining of their lips left Zachary flustered, not knowing where to put his hands. Thankfully, the kiss was long enough for him to wrap his arms around her waist, long enough to leave him breathless. 2 kisses weren't enough. He yearned for a third, a fourth, a fifth, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Meanwhile, the Duke was lost in regret. He was filled with regret and resentment. If only Adele had opened her heart to him, even just once, wouldn't everything have been different? Wouldn't they be as loving as their son and daughter-in-law? But his wife's cold words echoed in his mind. You shouldn't have loved me. Seeing the Duke's grim expression, the butler sighed. He tried to intervene. Tell the Duke about your true physical condition. The Duke refused to listen. He knew he couldn't hide it much longer. But at least he had to outlive the current emperor. For her son to inherit the title smoothly, she had to do this. As for her beloved wife's death, her illness was her just deserts. She wasn't afraid of death at all. On the contrary, she longed for it, but she couldn't keep it hidden forever. Zachary still learned of his father's critical illness and impending death. He questioned the doctor why treatment hadn't begun sooner. He didn't believe there were incurable diseases in this world. The doctor was also regretful. Your Grace, it's because there were no outward signs. The black magic caused internal chaos and affected the spleen. It's a once-in-a-century occurrence. Once contracted, it's fatal. Even though he was hated, scolded, and whipped by his father, Zachary still couldn't bear to let him die and do nothing. He confronted his father, asking why he had kept it from him. Did you intend to hide it forever? The Duke said indifferently. This news would only cause unrest if it were spread. He now only wanted to settle all his affairs and die peacefully. If possible, he wanted to abdicate immediately. But the royal family would definitely attack Zachary, claiming his silver dragon power was unstable. He knew they wouldn't allow Zachary to succeed him until he died, and death had long since become meaningless to him. Living longer held no meaning. In fact, he felt a sense of relief every time the illness flared up. It was his way of atoning for trapping his wife. When he met Adele again, he could apologize to her. Zachary was speechless. Then how long are we going to keep this from Illyri? Until I die. There's no need to worry her. She just needs to remain as she is now. The isolated young woman was having a sudden whimsical idea. After returning from a tea party, she decided to reward everyone for their hard work during the coming-of-age ceremony and hunting competition. With the mansion bustling, she discussed with the butler buying delicious food and drinks directly from the New Star Market. Since it was a time for everyone to rest, no one should work. She even personally wrote invitations for each person. While she was writing, the Duke approached. Upon learning that she was preparing a tea party for the ducal city, he, who usually disliked such gatherings, surprisingly expressed his desire to attend. He affectionately stroked her head, like a father to his daughter. Thank you for giving me a chance to properly see the city. Since you arrived, the ducal city has been managed so well. This is all thanks to you. Illyri couldn't help but marvel at how much the Duke had changed. It seemed that a closer relationship between him and Zachary was within reach. She gave the second invitation to Mary, a townsperson she happened to encounter. Mary was overjoyed upon receiving it. She had thought that Illyri's offer of a tea party was just talk. She hadn't expected it to be real, and she even received an invitation before the young master. Suddenly, Zachary appeared from around the corner. How could you? Illyri, how could you invite someone else first? I'm your husband. Mary understood Zachary's disappointment. So, holding the invitation aloft, she declared, is this proof of Illyri's trust in me? Zachary, his wounded pride somewhat soothed, said, Then I have to sit next to you at the tea party. That evening, upon entering the banquet hall, Illyri was so stunned she could have swallowed a carpet. The exquisite crystal chandeliers cast a shimmering, dreamlike glow. The tables were laden with a colorful array of delicious dishes. Everyone was busily involved in the preparations. It was completely different from her plan of everyone taking a break from work. Just then, she felt a warm breath near her ear. It was Zachary. That night's intimacy had intensified his passion. It was almost too much for her to bear. He was becoming less inhibited about his love for her. After everyone arrived, the Duke asked Illyri to say a few words to begin the event. Illyri, though nervous, sincerely thanked everyone. With everyone's help and support, both Zachary and I are fortunate. Eat, drink, and be merry. Later, I'll be giving out a 10 billion bonus and 3 days of paid leave. Thanks to all of you, the coming-of-age ceremony was a complete success. I'll be counting on you in the future as well. Let's manage the Duke's mansion together. After this tea party, Illyri became the Li Xiang of Chambord. Every moment, different people kept calling for her. Even the Knights of the Night Order joined in. Zachary glared at them. These guys are so annoying. Although it's a good thing that my wife is popular, more people will come to adore her. But he felt uneasy. Seeing men, he started nibbling his hand. A sense of urgency filled the young man's heart. Then, with lightning speed, he stuffed a cookie into her mouth. Don't overthink things. You're the one I love most in the entire ducal city. Understand? Illyri's face flushed red. He's so domineering. She loves it. She took a bite. The cookie baked according to her preferences was so sweet, just like him. But the next day, just as dawn broke, an unexpected guest arrived at the ducal city. A messenger arrived with news. The long-ailing emperor had passed away. The crown prince's coronation date was yet to be set. Although Illyri wasn't sensitive to politics, she could sense a change in the air. Zachary gently stroked her head. Don't worry, it won't affect you. I'll go see my father now. The Duke stated plainly that he wouldn't attend the coronation ceremony. His condition wouldn't allow him to travel in person. It was better to stay put than to force himself to go and have his weaknesses exposed. He wanted Zachary to take his wife. The royal family would suspect their sincerity if the Duke's house didn't make an appearance. Moreover, such a public occasion would help solidify his son's position as heir. Zachary refused. How could he go far away when his father was seriously ill? The Duke laughed. He had always treated him like a monster. But unknowingly, he had grown into someone even more spirited than himself. It was all because of Illyri. He reminded his son that only if he went could he take Illyri as well. The young woman deserved the treatment befitting the next mistress of the Heisenberg house. So that afternoon, Zachary set off with his wife. The Duke, in an unprecedented move, came to see them off. He even attempted to express his concern. Take care of yourselves. Have a safe journey. Illyri suggested they hug. They would likely be gone for quite some time. The Duke, with a look of resignation, opened his arms. Come on, come here. After Zachary recovered from his speechless astonishment, he mechanically walked over to his father. He was almost as tall as his father now, yet he was only just experiencing the warmth of his embrace. Illyri watched with deep satisfaction. She called Zachary by his birth name. What are you standing there for? Come here quickly. Me too. Of course. Unfortunately, this was the calm before the storm. Learning that the Heisenberg family would be represented by the young Duke and his wife in place of the Duke at the coronation ceremony, the Crown Prince raised an eyebrow. How very interesting. Not quite. The Crown Prince firmly believed that falling in love with a married woman wasn't his fault. It was simply that love had arrived a little late. So, after outliving his father, the first thing he did upon ascending the throne was to start digging at another man's wall. While Illyri was in the imperial capital for the coronation ceremony, he intended to make sure she didn't leave. To this end, he meticulously planned 2 events, an opera adapted from the founding legend and a jousting tournament. And with a flimsy excuse, he stopped the 2 who had planned to slip away after offering their congratulations. Zachary agreed, reluctantly, practically itching to start a rebellion. Illyri, however, showed unprecedented enthusiasm for the jousting tournament. It was a required event after the coronation ceremony, held in commemoration of the first emperor who was a knight. However, while emperors of the past had participated directly, now, for safety reasons, proxy knights were sent to compete. She both hoped someone would defeat the royal knight and found the idea romantic that the victor would present the Yasha flower to his beloved and earn the right to the first dance with her. It was a pity that the Heisenberg family hadn't participated in previous years. After all, they needed to avoid any appearance of conflict with the royal family. The young woman's look of longing made Zachary fall into deep thought. At this moment, the Marquis of Lundo offered his greetings. Zachary considered the Marquis's KPI of expanding his network in the imperial capital and making his formal debut as heir. Illyri encouraged him to socialize without worry, assuring him she could manage on her own. Just as Zachary found himself alone, a familiar and irritating baritone voice reached him. The Emperor, feigning thoughtfulness, remarked, "It must be lonely being by yourself. If you're lonely, I'll keep you company." He actively searched for conversation topics, asking Illyri about the custom of the jousting tournament victor presenting the Yasha flower to a lady. He continued, "Later, during the joust, the ladies will give handkerchiefs to the knights, wishing them victory. If you give your handkerchief to me, I'll present the flower to you. Every pore of Illyri's being protested. However, the emperor's proposal wasn't exactly unreasonable. The duke's family didn't participate in the joust. This method could demonstrate goodwill between the two families. But her heart belonged to Zachary. She attempted to decline. Her Highness the Princess will surely be upset if she doesn't receive your flower. The emperor deflected smoothly. How could my sister possibly want a flower from her brother? Just as the young woman was about to crumble under the pressure, a hand landed on her arm. Excuse me, Your Majesty. Illyri's handkerchief is already mine. The emperor was taken aback. The Heisenbergs never participated in the joust, but there are always exceptions. I trust you understand what this exception signifies. That evening, back at their residence, Illyri asked Zachary, "Are you really going to participate?" "What? What if you get hurt? What if you clash with the royal knights?" "Perhaps you think it's romantic," Zachary reassured her. "North of the Yangtze, my combat skills are unmatched." Illyri was actually thrilled he'd stepped in. She was almost about to give in, even though she only wanted to give her handkerchief to her beloved husband. She didn't want to anger the emperor and implicate the Heisenbergs because of her personal desires. She thought he understood her reasoning, but it seemed he only understood half of it. But now a new problem arose: how to embroider the handkerchief. This was a battle of pride among noble women. Could her clumsy handiwork even survive the scrutiny? Zachary, on the other hand, would undoubtedly flaunt it around casually. She was distressed. What was she to do? They arrived at the Zhonga Theater. Seeing her furrowed brow, Zachary felt apologetic. He should have refused the emperor's invitation. Such occasions made him uncomfortable. Illyri quickly comforted him. "You did well. I've always wanted to see the empire's largest opera house. It would have been even better if they had come alone. Today, they might encounter the royal family and have to exchange pleasantries." The word alone was like a trigger word, causing Zachary to blush. Seeing her concern and encouragement, he became even more determined not to let anyone take her away. But upon seeing the opera poster, Illyri's anger flared. The cursed silver dragon and the revelation of justice. Was the duke's family's denigration so blatant? Zachary calmly told her to get used to it. It was a performance commissioned by the royal family every year. His accustomed silence pained Illyri. His sensitive identity prevented him from expressing his true feelings. She declared boldly, "I'll be angry on your behalf. Those despicable royals, unreasonable, brainless fools." Perhaps peaceful and tranquil meant her boisterous laughter and playful teasing. As she continued, the gloom that weighed on his heart disappeared. And as she laughed, he blushed, his heart raced, and he fled. Emerging from the restroom, Illyri was still calming her racing heart. Suddenly, someone called out, "Excuse me, Mississippi, you dropped your handkerchief." But when she turned around, it was the emperor. This novel was relentless, like a persistent mother-in-law, seizing every opportunity to be alone with a young woman and unleash his charm. He declared that Illyri was special in his eyes, so special that he tolerated her shocking disrespect towards the royal family, so special that he devised the handkerchief scheme as a pretext to approach her. Illyri quickly interrupted this bewildering speech. She was married, okay? He could take the handkerchief, but that was all. The emperor, having boosted his affection points, departed. "I'll look forward to seeing you again after the opera." Zachary heard that Illyri had met with the emperor and became restless. "That ginger freak didn't do anything to you, did he?" At this moment, Zachary was panicked. He was afraid he would be held accountable for his recklessness. The Heisenbergs were already a thorn in the emperor's side, a splinter in his flesh. And now he had given him the excuse of accusing him of secession and treason. "It's all right. You don't have to worry. No matter what happens, I will unconditionally stand by your side." Zachary told Illyri not to worry. The duke's family could stand on its own with its royal title. If it weren't for the trouble of falling out with the royal family, he wouldn't hesitate. "Leave this kind of thing to me. Just as I rely on you, I hope you can rely on me too." Illyri was hesitating about whether to tell him about the emperor's frivolous words when Zachary's hand reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. The next moment, his lips, as if in a play, lightly landed on her cheek. "You really can trust me. Don't worry, okay?" This time, the young woman didn't frown. Holding a glass filled with ice and something fizzy, she only felt very, very hot. On stage, they began to perform a song adapted from the founding legend. The cruel silver dragon of the north, Heisenberg, fell in love with the spring equinox elf. The Ishako elf, however, loved the night. Enraged by this, the dragon became possessive and imprisoned the elf in a secret garden. From then on, spring disappeared from the world. To defeat the silver dragon and rescue the elf, the knight rose to fight. He battled the dragon for a whole week and finally achieved victory. However, due to the dragon's rage, the elf was severely injured. After being blessed by the knight, he stopped breathing. In the end, the knight became a great and holy monarch. A story of only 139 words, performed for over 3 hours. Its only merit was that it allowed Illyri to stifle her yawns. Zachary stood up, having seen enough. They left quickly while everyone was still seated. Illyri understood that he had left early for her sake. He was worried she was too bored and afraid she might encounter the Emperor again and feel uncomfortable. That night, his arms around her, his eyes curved into crescents. But after leaving the hall and taking only a few steps, she belatedly realized, "Where's my bag?" She must have left it on her seat. Zachary, not wanting Illyri to have to run back, decided to retrieve it himself. Little did he know that history would repeat itself. Illyri was practically hiding behind a pillar. Yet, she was still caught by the Emperor. "Lady Heisenberg, we agreed to see each other after the opera. Why have you left early?" Compared to the disgusted expression she usually wore when seeing the Emperor, Illyri put on a smile when the princess greeted her. As they chatted and laughed, the Emperor insisted on interjecting, asking Illyri if she, with her title of the Empire's most beautiful woman, was a good match for the next ruler of the North. They had been betrothed once, a fact the young woman constantly brought up. "Your Majesty, how can you ask a married woman if another woman is a good match for her husband?" The Emperor put on his usual, "I'm just joking. You took it seriously, I'm sorry" act. But this time, as he approached her, his gray eyes activated their charm skill. "The dumb killer flower's curse. Come visit the palace often. You avoiding me makes me sad. You're so clever and witty, we should get along well." Seeing the Emperor's overt friendliness, the gossipy nature of everyone present was ignited, leading to speculation about their relationship. The Emperor smiled, confident of victory. No one could resist his charm. However, Illyri, without hesitation, withdrew her hand. "Excuse me, I can't chat with you. I have a husband, and your comment about him and the princess being a good match makes me very uncomfortable. It seems that because you're single, your boundaries are rather weak. Being publicly humiliated was a shameful thing, especially when the other party was the newly ascended emperor." He stepped closer to her. "That you're being very disrespectful." Zachary, having returned, stepped in front of Illyri. "Your Majesty, please don't come any closer. Are you all right? Why did you take so long? I've been waiting for you." "I'm sorry. I'll apologize properly later." This time, Zachary, disregarding royal decorum, faced the greasy, disgusting man who wanted to tear apart his family. He angrily rebuked him, saying he would never tolerate such foolishness. "Allow me to remind you, the North is not under the control of the royal family. And this handkerchief, I return it to you. This is not something the next mistress of the Heisenberg family should possess." With that, he shielded Illyri and strode away, completely ignoring the Emperor's darkened face and icy smile. On the way back, Illyri couldn't help but worry. Directly confronting him was too risky. Indeed, Zachary agreed. With the Duke's influence, we can contend with the royal family. But if it comes to that, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. At this point, Zachary leaned against her shoulder. Guilt filled his voice. "I shouldn't have left your side." Illyri corrected him. "It's not your fault. You don't need to apologize." But the more mature he becomes, the more ruthless he is. He still doesn't fully rely on us. The princess, already on her way back to the palace, encountered 2 ministers complaining about why the Emperor would provoke the Heisenbergs. The young princess worried, after the Northern conspiracy, the North won't seek independence, will they? Overhearing this, the Emperor unexpectedly joined the conversation. When he turned to leave, the 2 ministers rushed forward, insisting, "It's certainly not your Majesty's fault. That damned Heisenberg." Noticing their vacant expressions, the princess cautiously inquired, "Brother, you haven't used Yasha's blessing privately, have you? That can only be used for matters concerning the nation." She advised, "Brother, you shouldn't approach Miss Heisenberg anymore." But before she could finish, a slap landed on her face. "Who do you think you are, daring to interfere in the Emperor's affairs? Someone of your low birth has no right to control me." Touching her burning cheek, the princess remained silent. The Emperor, however, grew angrier. Everyone wanted to walk all over him. He simply took a liking to a woman. Since she didn't take the bait this time, he had other plans. A few days later, the palace held a pre-jousting party. Illyri deliberately chose a gown the color of her husband's eyes. She wore the handkerchief he clumsily embroidered. Although it wasn't very attractive, she hoped Zachary would like it. Then, guided by her husband, she slowly entered, stealing glances at him. He's so handsome, she thought. His straight nose, lips like rose petals, and a smile that captured her heart. Noticing his wife's gaze, Zachary immediately offered a compliment. Illyri, you look beautiful today. What do you think of me? I dressed up specially for you. The young woman shyly stammered, raising her voice slightly. I said you look handsome. Zachary's laughter and eyes were filled with love. In his eyes, she was the most beautiful person in the world. He would do his utmost to become worthy of her. Due to party rules, men and women had to remain separate for the first half. After parting with Zachary, Illyri wondered who to talk to. Generally, those of lower status greet those of higher status. I might as well find a place to hide and rest. Greetings, Miss Heisenberg. I'm Letitia Londo. The Marquis's daughter extended an olive branch. Illyri's curiosity was piqued. I heard you're discussing marriage with the Emperor. Absolutely not, Letitia replied. I'm truly not worthy of such a high position as Empress. I don't want to be an Empress with only responsibilities and no power. It's obvious being Empress would be very difficult. Besides, she had also heard the gossip about the Emperor and Illyri. Marrying a man who loves someone else will only bring me suffering. It's better to become close friends. Then I'll have a front row seat to the Duke and Duchess's displays of affection. As the three of them chatted and laughed, a familiar and irritating baritone voice interrupted. The Emperor, upon seeing her, immediately began with compliments. Your dress is beautiful. But he'd unfortunately put his foot in his mouth. This dress was custom-made to match my husband's eyes. I'm very pleased to receive your majesty's approval. Illyri was quite pleased with his display of affection. He was an impenetrable fortress. Any attempts to steal him away would be futile. Catching his underlying meaning, the Emperor called his sister back. Don't you have something to give Duke Zachary? What are you waiting for? Hurry up. The princess trembled, forcing a smile. Under his sharp, blade-like gaze, she yielded. Would you accept my handkerchief, Duke Zachary? I embroidered it while thinking of you. I wish you victory, and may you become the master of the Yasha flower. If you win and give the Yasha flower to me, I would be very happy. Giving a handkerchief in archery wasn't considered improper etiquette, but publicly expressing a desire to receive a flower from a man who already had a partner and a wife was self-destructive. Both Zachary and Illyri could sense the princess was being coerced, and, unsurprisingly, Zachary refused. My dear Illyri gave me a handkerchief, and that's enough for me. Besides her, no one else holds any significance. With the princess rejected, the Emperor predictably stepped forward, accusing Duke Zachary that couldn't you have just accepted it symbolically? Must you be so heartless and embarrass the royal family? Zachary pointed out even more ruthlessly. Did you force the princess to do this? Don't play this kind of joke again. He was going to have the first dance with his wife. He didn't want to have any involvement with any other woman besides her. Gently pressing his lips to the back of her hand, he asked, My lady, would you grant me the first dance? I will be delighted. They watched the two, sweetly engrossed, twirling on the dance floor to the music. The Emperor gritted his teeth. Plan A had failed. Then let the jousting begin immediately. The progress bar for the impending crisis was almost full. Completely unaware of this, the two were still immersed in the intoxicating aroma of love. Zachary asked, Where is your handkerchief? Do I really have to give it to you? What do you mean? Illyri's nervous hands were sweaty. It felt like getting a 52 on a test and having to get her parents to sign it. She had painstakingly practiced her embroidery countless times to achieve this result. It looked like the somewhat decent handiwork of a Heisenberg. But how could Zachary possibly dislike it? It was a treasure to him. He reverently kissed the handkerchief. Thank you, Illyri. I'm truly happy. On the carriage ride home, Illyri suddenly stared at Zachary, lost in thought. They were still sleeping in separate rooms. Noticing her gaze, Zachary asked, What's wrong? Illyri quickly changed the subject. I'm looking at the sky. Look, it's such a beautiful view, isn't it? Perhaps it was the enchanting sunset. She couldn't help but sighed. It's been a while since I've seen a southern sunset. Speaking unintentionally, the listener took it to heart. Zachary mistakenly thought his wife was homesick. He became melancholic. That I'm sorry. A lot of unpleasant things have happened since we came to the imperial capital. If you hadn't married me, you wouldn't have to go through all this. Hearing this, Illyri got up and walked over to him. I've never regretted marrying you. Isn't it natural for family to face difficulties together? Don't overthink it. Focus on preparing for tomorrow's jousting. Let me become the master of the Yasha flower, understand? Zachary was full of confidence, of course. The next day, he arrived early at the staging area, constantly touching his wrist. The surrounding knights gossiped. It's true that Duke Zachary is competing. But is that handkerchief something a child made for practice? I haven't heard that he has any children. Zachary keenly caught the keyword handkerchief. Are you talking about my handkerchief? My wife embroidered it for me herself. Isn't it beautiful? Just as Illyri had anticipated, her husband's subtle bragging had begun. Meanwhile, Illyri encountered the princess in the general audience seating. The princess sincerely apologized for her rudeness the previous day. Before, she hadn't wanted to come between them and had even wanted to get along with Illyri, but she hadn't been able to defy her brother. Illyri once again noticed large bruises on the princess. The culprit was obvious. She wouldn't be foolish enough to ruin her friendship with the princess for a scumbag. As the horn blew, the contestants entered the arena. Illyri spotted Zachary in the crowd at once. "My lady, for a triumphant start, I'd like to hear your blessing. I believe my knight will surely make me the owner of the Yasha flower. The rule of the joust is to ride around the field, while collecting rings magically fixed in the air. Whoever collects the most rings and reaches the finish line first wins." This was Illyri's first time watching a competitive sport with physical contact, and she couldn't help but feel a little scared. The princess, however, believed Zachary was invincible. If there was any opponent to speak of, it would be Carl, representing the royal family. But the championship belongs to Zachary. He not only possesses a natural talent for combat, but also masters military strategy and tactics. He even has unique insights into managing soldiers. If he weren't a puppet of the princess, he'd be qualified to intervene in the empire's political affairs. He would certainly excel. An officer like him, he could do a much better job than my brother. On the field, Zachary took the lead. He was firmly in first place, both in laps and rings collected. At this rate, he would finish the competition in 10 minutes at most. But then, Carl, in second place, suddenly lost control of his horse and charged toward Zachary. It looked like Carl's fall was caused by his horse losing control, but in reality, he had deliberately steered in that direction. As he fell, a team of medics rushed onto the field, carrying a stretcher to take the injured man away. Illyri looked at the Emperor, sitting in the VIP seats with a smile on his face. This is definitely his plan, to prevent Zachary from winning and take his life in the process. Unfortunately for him, his plan backfired. Many people were injured, but not Zachary, who was closest. Not only was he unharmed, but even his horse remained undisturbed. The man sat firmly on his horse, unfazed, making the Emperor grind his teeth in frustration. Useless Carl, he can't even handle such a small task. After a moment of thought, he ordered the competition to continue, but reset the scores. The winner will be decided by one final ring. A true knight only needs one chance to prove himself. The Emperor shamelessly changed the rules, hoping that Zachary, now at a disadvantage, would be overtaken. Seeing a chance to turn the tables, the riders rode even harder. But in the next second, Zachary left everyone in the dust. He effortlessly snatched the ring and removed his helmet to bask in the cheers and admiration. The other riders were still hundreds of meters behind. During the award ceremony, the Emperor, suppressing his anger, praised Zachary. He truly proved himself to be the sharpest through this competition. The Yasha flower is hers. Zachary turned and presented the flower to his beloved. "My lady, I have already given my body and soul to you. Today, I also want to give this Yasha flower to you. Will you accept it?" The young woman's face was radiant. "Of course I will." Later, she placed the Yasha flower in a carefully chosen vase. "It's so beautiful. I can't bear to see it wither." Zachary gave her a doting smile. "But it's beautiful because it resembles you. When it withers, I'll give you a whole tree of them." Illyri shook her head. "This flower carries your feelings. It has a preciousness that no other flower can replace." The smile before her seemed to captivate his soul. As if bewitched, the man reached out his hand, then lowered his head, exploring the mysterious realm he had long yearned for. Taking advantage of the moment, Illyri nervously and gently pushed Zachary. Unexpectedly, her resistance only added fuel to the fire. The man's kiss deepened and lengthened. After the thrilling and eventful joust, the young couple were ready to return to the north. But that day, an invitation arrived from the palace, from the princess, who wanted to have a heart-to-heart with Illyri. However, upon noticing the button on the attendant's uniform, a style exclusive to the Emperor's high-ranking maids, Illyri became wary. "Welcome, Miss Blanchett. You look the same as when we first met." She addressed the princess's mother. He seemed to want to distance himself from his involvement with Zachary. Illyri felt tricked. Trying to maintain composure, she asked the emperor what he meant. I know you've been avoiding me, so I borrowed my sister's name. I've been wanting to meet with you privately. Why don't you have a seat first? I prepared some of your favorite refreshments. Try them. Illyri didn't want to eat or drink. She just wanted to leave. However, it was difficult to disobey the emperor's command. She picked up the teacup, intending to make a show of politeness and then find an excuse to retreat. She overlooked the emperor's upturned lips that accompanied her action. Miss, I wish for you to divorce Duke Xiao. Though the words were polite, they carried a command. Upon hearing this, Illyri resolutely said, I cannot obey. My husband and I truly love each other. Most importantly, I do not wish to become your woman. With this answer, Illyri made clear her rejection of the emperor's advances. But choosing to refuse, she rose to take her leave. Sit down. I haven't given you permission to stand. As if watching a newly caught prey desperately trying to escape, the emperor wasn't angered. This was all the more interesting, wasn't it? He told her that as the son of the empire, the parent of the people, there was nothing he couldn't obtain. Illyri wanted to retort, but her vision began to blur. Her steps faltered, her head swam. Haven't asked you yet. How was the tea? You've exhausted my patience. I'm surprised. The Yasha flower's blessing actually had no effect on you. Drugs, however, are different. The emperor summoned guards to take her to a room. He wasn't so base as to take advantage of her then, because after today, he could at any time. Your ladyship's reputation is beautiful but fragile. A mere rumor is enough to damage it. Soon, everyone will believe that the two of you are mutually enamored. And will Zachary believe you came willingly? Dragged by the guards, Illyri was too weak to make sound. She could only cry out Zachary's name over and over in her heart. In an instant, a whirlwind swept through the room. Snowflakes danced and settled on his clothes. The guards collapsed. Every step Zachary took radiated a chilling intent. He lifted the girl into his arms. Holding her too loosely, he feared she'd fall. Too tightly, he feared he'd hurt her. His delicately nurtured flower was being so wantonly trampled upon. The pain in his eyes transformed into malice. Seeing this, the emperor played the victim. He claimed Illyri had seduced him. He'd been drinking before she arrived and could barely stand. Do you know how panicked I was? She already has another man in her heart. Shut up. That ginger freak has a mouth that only spouts nonsense. Someone without a true heart naturally wouldn't understand the power of a true heart. Zachary wouldn't believe a single punctuation mark from him. His fury transformed into a storm, lashing the very earth. Illyri, forcing herself to stay conscious, pleaded, Zachary, no, you can't lose control. Let's go home. But the emperor wouldn't let them go so easily. Accusing them of plotting against the royal family, he mobilized 800 guards. Neither of them would escape, just as I planned. You turned Illyri into this. I'll make you pay the price before I take her back. Thus, Zachary summoned a blizzard. The blizzard transformed into a forest of ice shards, surging towards the emperor. It was a mere 0.01 meters from a happy ending. However, the ice shards also erupted around Illyri. Indiscriminately, they pierced her as she struggled to stop Zachary's rampage. Her cry as she collapsed brought Zachary back to his senses. Before losing consciousness, her voice was faint. Let's go home. For the week that Illyri remained unconscious, Zachary didn't leave her side. His guilt festered. He blamed himself for exposing her, for being by her side at all. So, when Illyri awoke and her bandages were removed, she hadn't seen Zachary for days. From the maids, she learned that the princess had arrived to reveal the truth, allowing Zachary to reach the palace in time. And to avoid a public scandal with the Liu family, the royal family claimed it was simply an unusual weather event. Illyri had her maid inform Zachary that if she didn't see him within 30 minutes, she would drag her still recovering body to go find him. Zachary, distressed by his wife's anger, arrived within 5 minutes. He listened to Illyri's grievances about his lack of visits. He repeated, I'm sorry, like a broken record. After Illyri vented her emotions, she asked him what the real problem was. It certainly wasn't just guilt. Zachary sat down beside the bed and confessed that confusion was overwhelming him. He desperately wanted to stay by her side, but he was bringing her danger. If he hadn't married her, she wouldn't have been targeted by the emperor, nor would she have been injured while under his protection. He was terrified that similar incidents would occur, that he would lose control and hurt her again. He was also afraid that she would come to fear his power and hate him, abandoning him like his parents did. I can't live without you. I really don't know what to do anymore. At that moment, Illyri realized that Zachary's childhood trauma lingered, unhealed by the passage of time. Cupping his gloomy face, she promised, whether you have the risk of losing control or not, whether you have monstrous power or not, I don't care. Those are all a part of you, just like your clumsiness and your gentleness. I love everything about you, no matter what you are like. To me, you are the most precious person in the world. I won't leave you. However, after receiving the news that his son had lost control and injured his daughter-in-law, the Duke was in a foul mood. This couldn't continue, or even he would eventually be affected. When the young couple returned to the Duke's mansion to see him, he sighed at Illyri. You should know, I consider you like my own daughter. So, I'm doing this for your own good. Leave the Duke's territory. This is not where you belong. He saw his son's wife as a substitute for his deceased beloved, forcing them to divorce. Illyri refused. They had promised to spend 9 lifetimes together. But thinking of his deceased wife, the Duke was afraid. His son still couldn't control his immense power. This time, it was an accidental injury during a loss of control. But what if next time it cost her life? He couldn't gamble. He didn't want to lose someone who brought light into his life again. Illyri was still arguing her case, but beside her, Zachary spoke with tears streaming down his face. Father is right. Let's get a divorce. He remembered his mother's terrified and furious face during his childhood outbursts. You monster. You're not my child. Even if Zachary had 520 reasons not to, the 521st would force its way through, reminding him it was the right thing to do. It was for her own good, for her safety. Illyri asked, what about later? When you can't refuse the Emperor, will you not care then either? Wiping the tears from his eyes, Zachary made up his mind. The Duke's family will continue to protect you. And as time passes, you'll surely meet a good man who can protect you. What's the point of another man? I only want you. Me too. I only want you. But I don't want you to one day, like my mother. Look at me with despair in your eyes. Zachary didn't hesitate as he turned away. He knew if he waited even a second longer, he wouldn't be able to bring himself to do it. The next day, Mary the maid packed Illyri's luggage. She grumbled about the Duke and the young master. How could they treat her mistress this way? She brought in a meal specially prepared in the kitchen. It's all made according to your preferences. Mississippi soft, fresh, and sweet. Even if you don't have an appetite, please eat a little. Illyri picked up a spoon and took a bite. The next second, tears fell like broken pearls on her hand. Even though she understood the Duke's reasoning, her heart still ached. The beautiful memories of the Camellia Ball were still vivid in her mind. I thought I had finally become a member of the Heffen family, but it turned out to be just a dream. Now I've woken up. The Duke saw Illyri off before she left. Does he blame me? It'd be a lie to say he doesn't, but it's okay, because I will absolutely not give up on Zachary. So please tell him. I'll wait for him. Watching the carriage gradually disappear, Zachary stood in the attic. The young woman's smile and her sweet confession kept replaying in his mind. Zachary, I like you. The man felt his heart shatter into a million pieces. How wonderful the encounter was, and how completely it was reversed by the separation. After a long journey back to the south, Illyri stepped out of the carriage and saw her mother waiting there for her. Her mother rushed over and gave her a big hug. Why, precious daughter, you must be so sad. I'm fine. I've just repaid my debt and returned to my parents. But every pause in her voice was followed by a clear sob. Finally, she broke down in her mother's arms. Why, child, just cry if you want to. They say time is a mediocre doctor, but it cures all ills. Illyri disagreed. Otherwise, why was it snowing even in the warm south? She still hadn't heard from Zachary. Instead, an invitation arrived from the imperial city, inviting her to the New Year's ball. Over the past few months, the Emperor had presumably refrained from openly pursuing her due to the Duke's family. He had only secretly asked her to be his mistress. Illyri didn't want to go to the imperial city at all, but to reassure her parents, she decided to return to social life. As expected, her mother was delighted to hear she was going to a party. Opening her wardrobe, she wondered which dress to wear. There were so many beautiful styles. These clothes were so familiar that Illyri felt a little dazed. It was as if she were back at the Duke's mansion. They were all dresses she had worn in the north. She remembered that she had only taken basic necessities with her. Could have been Mary? She had told her not to bother. No, as a maid, Mary's authority was limited. Had Zachary and the Duke instructed her? Just then, her mother brought out a silver blue scarf. How beautiful, she exclaimed. The color is so vibrant. Is it made of rabbit fur? Illyri's voice trembled, but it's made of silver fox fur. Memories spilled over her like overturned spices. The man's sweet words echoed in her ears. But aren't you always cold? Silver fox fur is much warmer than other animal furs. This is a gift I wanted to give you personally. Even now, touching the soft fur, bitter tears fell onto the scarf. She felt resentful and wronged. She didn't understand. How How could Zachary do this to her? He hadn't come to see her. He hadn't even sent a letter. She liked him so much. But after the crying and the pain, life went on. At the New Year's ball, Hillary stood uneasily in a corner. Yet, as soon as she appeared, she attracted gossiping glances. Their whispers were not too loud, not too soft, just loud enough for her to hear. That's definitely the style of northern dresses. How shameless of her to wear that, even after the divorce. I think she's just too poor to afford new clothes. She used to rely on the Duke's family. Hillary quietly moved away. The people ostracizing her today were probably the same ones fawning over her yesterday. But she didn't notice. A pair of eyes following her every move. He had been waiting for her arrival for a long time. Miss Blanchett, you are as beautiful as ever. May I have this dance? Hillary knew she would encounter the Emperor, but actually seeing him was another matter. And with no reason to refuse, she was like a fish on a chopping block, waiting to be carved up. The whispers reached a peak as they joined the dance floor. The Emperor even slyly signaled the orchestra to change the music. He wanted to dance with her to a piece with the most physical contact. Hillary didn't tell you that you put your arm around my waist, did she? I stepped on your foot. Unexpectedly, the Emperor found her even more unique and adorable. He took a large step forward, closing the distance between them as he discussed their relationship. Hillary had said that her feelings for him weren't love, but a reaction to Zachary's suppression and plunder. The Emperor thought this was somewhat biased because after her divorce, his desire for her had only intensified. As the song ended, he seized the opportunity to affectionately kiss her slender fingers, delivering his final ultimatum. You can no longer protect yourself. I've given you the utmost respect, waiting a full 6 months. It's time for your answer. Hillary quickly withdrew her hand, excusing herself before the next song began. The Emperor let her go. The night was long, and he had plenty of time and energy. As Hillary left, she realized she couldn't stay there any longer. She searched the crowd for the princess. She wanted to say goodbye. Suddenly, Rita called her name from behind and rushed forward, grasping her hand. Please don't open this until you're somewhere private. It's a letter from Her Highness the Princess. In the letter, the princess informed Hillary that Duke Heisenberg had passed away, reportedly by his own hand. Young Duke Xiao had successfully inherited the title and was on his way north. She guessed that Hillary probably didn't know about this yet, so she wrote the letter. Indeed, Hillary was still in the dark. The Emperor had suppressed the news and held the New Year's ball specifically to corner her while she was still unaware of the truth. After the initial shock, Hillary began to sob. It was all her fault. The Empire's only duke had been so wronged, his death unable to be mourned publicly. Thinking of her beloved Zachary, she now had no one left. She asked Rita if the funeral had taken place yet. She wanted to leave immediately, hoping she could still make it in time. Zachary, wait for me. Miss Blanchett, where are you rushing off to? I couldn't give you the Yasha flowers after the jousting match last time. To make up for it, I've specially prepared this bouquet. Yasha flowers are certainly most suited to you, but red roses also look lovely on you. The Empire's most esteemed man was courting her, promising her mountains of gold and silver, anything she desired. He didn't mind her humble background or that she was divorced. Would she be willing to be his lover? Hillary hadn't expected the Emperor to confess in public. She wanted to refuse, but under the pressure of power and public opinion, she couldn't speak that I can completely change your life. That worn-out bracelet should be thrown away. I'll replace it with a diamond bracelet more befitting your status. The Emperor drew closer and closer. Hillary had nowhere to retreat. But that bracelet, however shabby, was her treasure. She and Zachary had so eagerly looked forward to cutting it together after a year, believing it would bring them eternal happiness. Remembering the intoxicating feeling of their lips meeting that night, she strengthened her resolve and pushed back. She slapped away the hand reaching for her. I don't want it. No jewel is as protective or as suitable for me as this bracelet. And there's only one flower that suits me, and that's the Yasha flower Duke Heisenberg gave me. Hillary's response made the Emperor realize she knew about Zachary's suicide, but it didn't matter. Even if she rushed there now, could a broken mirror be mended? Your Majesty, even if Zachary rejected me, I could never choose you. Free from the Emperor and public opinion, the young woman ran towards her beloved. Perhaps time could truly heal all wounds. But until then, she still missed and loved the hedgehog, the one she had been so wary of at their first meeting. The one who later learned to retract his spines and show her tenderness. She couldn't stand idly by and watch his grief. Upon receiving the news of the young woman's return to the Duke's mansion, Zachary immediately went to see her. But the familiar warmth was gone, replaced by words as cold and sharp as ice. "We abandoned you. Why have you come back? There's no place for you in the Heisenberg family anymore." Enduring the heartache, Illyrie pleaded with him, asking him to at least allow her to see the Duke off on his final journey. After all, they were once family. She promised to leave immediately after the funeral. Her humility and subservience were like a dull knife cutting flesh, bloodless but agonizing. It left Zachary speechless. After she left, Illyrie's tears finally fell. She feared he would struggle to bear the burden alone, so she rushed from the imperial city without stopping. She hadn't expected to be met with such cruel rejection. That night, Zachary was plagued by nightmares again. He saw other children gathered together, talking about how frightening he was, calling him a monster, and saying they should stay away from him. Young Zachary had heard these words so often they were like calluses on his ears. Every time this happened, their mother would come running, apologizing and begging him to be merciful, not to stoop to the level of children. His father's enigmatic presence also appeared in his dreams, not to comfort him, but to remind him, "You are a monster." Watching his father's figure gradually dissipate, Zachary felt that he now had no one left to resent. From now on, whether it was the Duke's family or winter magic, he would have to bear all the sorrow alone. As for Illyrie, "I can't drag her down with me." As raindrops repeatedly struck the windowsill, the man awoke from his dream. He walked out of the dimly lit room, brooding over his father, and stood in the rain. Zachary relished the coldness of the rain soaking his clothes. Hoping it would wash away the tenderness he felt upon seeing the young woman. Meanwhile, Illyrie was asking a maid for some juice. She hadn't even gone home. She came straight to the northern estate. She hadn't yet had a chance to tell her parents. Mary, the maid, brought out Miss Illyrie's customary feather pen. "I'm so glad you've come. The late Duke missed you dearly, and so did the young master. All of your belongings have been kept just as you left them. Your room is also cleaned regularly." Illyrie sighed upon hearing this, but Zachary kept pushing her away. Suddenly, she saw him standing rigidly in the downpour. Without a second thought, she rushed out into the rain. She held an umbrella over him and urged him to return to the house. But he was stubborn, obstinately choosing to send her away again. "Leave me alone." This time, Illyrie refused to suppress her feelings. She questioned him. "You're clearly in pain and missing him too. You're clearly grieving over your father's death. Why won't you lean on me? Why do you keep pushing me away?" "Lean on you? Do you know what that means? Everyone around me ends up miserable. My father, my mother. Do you think you'll be any different? I don't want you to become like them." "It's true. I still haven't let go of you." Zachary was about to say something else, but the person he had been yearning for threw themselves into his arms. He admitted it. In that moment, the high walls he had painstakingly built crumbled, because her eyes were filled with tears, because she told him, rather than being safe alone, "I'd rather suffer with you." He longed to be selfish too. The person standing by his side could only be her. Then do just that. Let's protect each other and find stability together. Zachary finally abandoned the idea of letting go. He had once been confident in his devotion, believing he would love her forever. He believed there was no problem he couldn't solve. But when faced with layers of pressure, he had cowardly and shamefully run away time and time again. Fortunately, she remained steadfast and unwavering, forgiving his past transgressions. He knew with certainty that if he let go this time, he would deserve to die 1,000 deaths. A few days later, at the Duke's funeral, Illyrie's appearance shocked everyone. They gossiped. Weren't they divorced long ago? Why would Miss Blanchette still be here? Zachary shot a glare. "Correct yourselves. She is not Miss Blanchette. She is the Duchess of Heisenberg. She was before, and nothing will change that." The northern nobles were stunned. No one wanted to be the first to speak. The first to react was the princess, who had been waiting for Illyrie. She was the first to make a sarcastic remark. "Congratulations, Illyrie. You found your rightful place." She was acknowledging Illyrie's status as Duchess on behalf of the royal family. Illyrie felt incredibly guilty when she received the flowers. If she had known it would be the last time she saw the Duke, she would never have been so cold. Zachary, on the other hand, sobbed repeatedly, saying, "I'm sorry." Over the years, the father and son had a complex relationship of love and hate. There were times when they wanted to abandon each other, yet they were bound by blood. The night of the funeral, Zachary collapsed in his study. The doctor diagnosed him with severe stress, exacerbated by being out in the rain. He said rest would be enough for recovery. But the first thing Zachary said upon waking was, "I'm still alive. Perhaps it would have been better if my father had lived." In truth, the Duke took his own life so that his son could inherit the title. The North and the royal family were at odds, and the tension worsened after the Redhead's ascension. He would never allow Zachary to inherit the powerful position. So, to preempt this, before the imperial city learned of his illness, before the emperor could choose a puppet as the Heisenberg heir, there was only one solution: his own death. So the Duke took poison and died in front of his son. When it comes to the people I love, I never make wise choices. Whether it's Adele, Illyri, or you, Zachary, you must find happiness. Learning the truth left Illyri deeply disturbed. She understood why the Duke had said those words. His mother died of depression because of him. His father died because of him. He would carry this guilt his entire life. But she still wanted to tell him, "Your existence means so much. You protected the happiness of countless people. Heisenberg and the North cannot be without you. I cannot be without you." Illyri's painting and his father's dying wish motivated Zachary to regain his composure. Yes, he still had to protect her. How could he be so distraught? That very day, they cut their bracelets together. Exactly 1 year had passed. They believed they would be together forever from now on. At 13, she was forced to marry him to pay off a debt. There was no wedding, and she slept in the guest room. He was like a hedgehog, guarded against her. But at 19, they became indispensable to each other. They still slept in separate rooms. He wanted to consummate their marriage after a grand wedding. He even offered to bring her parents to the North. No in-laws, only her family, and endless money to spend. Who wouldn't envy such a married life? But then, her best friend sent a letter saying she was getting married. Illyri was genuinely happy for her. "I really hope he's a good man. I've been chosen by His Majesty to be the Empress." Reading this, Illyri's mind went blank for 3 seconds. She couldn't believe it was that scumbag emperor. Had he shifted his interest from her to her best friend? Zachary, however, understood the political implications. The emperor was trying to gain leverage over him through a marriage alliance with a marquis family. He could do what he likes. It makes me want to have a wedding too. Illyri's first marriage was rushed, and their second marriage wasn't public. He felt he owed her a romantic memory. She deserved to be promised to him before their loved ones on a beautiful afternoon, a promise declared to the world. However, the emperor wanted to have his cake and eat it too. Upon learning of Illyri's upcoming wedding, he sent an olive-shaped bracelet. Green is the color of a young girl's pupils. Gems are usually gifts for lovers. Clearly, he hasn't given up on Illyri. Even marriage can't hinder his courtship. Even the prestigious Duke's family can't easily refuse the emperor. The thought of his wife wearing a gift with such ulterior motives from that redhead gives Zachary a headache. Lifting those delicate hands that belong only to him, "I will give her a gift that will make this bracelet pale in comparison." After some thought, he decided to give her a crown, one that only royalty, the Duchess of the Duke's family, and palace maids are qualified to wear. Not only that, but he also summoned the butler, preparing to adorn the crown with Yasha stones. Those are the most precious gems passed down through generations of the Duke's family. They are pink diamonds made from the tears of Yasha flower spirits, frozen by the ice of a silver dragon. He wants Illyri to be the center of attention that day. The night before the wedding, Illyri's mother, who had rushed over especially, knocked on her daughter's door. As someone who's been through it, she guessed her daughter might be too nervous to sleep. Unknowingly, the little baby who needed a snuggle in her arms had grown into a capable adult. Now, Illyri is as delicate as a flower and as resilient as a tree. But remember, if you encounter anything unpleasant, tell me anytime. We will always be your strongest support. The whole world seemed to be painted pink that day. Holding her father's arm, Illyri, holding a bouquet, slowly entered. When her father placed her hand in Zachary's, Zachary's heart skipped a beat as he looked back. He couldn't help but wonder if Yasha flower spirits existed. Would it look like this? Just standing there, she captivated his entire being. He was so nervous he stumbled over his own feet, forgetting how to walk. Later, they exchanged vows of love in the spring air. They completed their transformation on an island belonging only to them. In the future, they would frolic on the beach in the summer heat, watch falling leaves in autumn and snow in winter. Day after day, year after year, he promised, "I offer my heart and soul to you. You will always be my master and my only woman." She replied, "I accept your vow. We will share our destiny and stay by each other's side forever."